philosophical lecture shorts. Today we're going to talk about the problem of personal identity. And try just to do a quick overview of this section we're doing for my online class and also here in my on-campus class as well. The main question we're asking is basically this: are we the same person today as we were yesterday? Okay. So I'm trying to just basically draw up the point as yes. Think about me when I was a kid. When I was 5 years old, I went into kindergarten. I was kind of a quiet kid. But as I went through elementary school, I kind of started to change, come out of my shell a little bit. By the time I get to middle school, I was a lot more talkative. I was into like rock music, things like that. Get to high school, end up getting into some more different type of music, kind of become even more outgoing. Get into philosophy, start doing that. Get to college, kind of become a hippie. Do that thing for a while, and maybe I still haven't changed much from that. Okay. And then eventually get out of college, and now I'm a professor here at John Tyler teaching philosophy. The question is, through all those changes, obviously I don't look the same as I did 10 years ago or 20 years before that or when I was 5 years old. The question is, am I the same person? Or have I completely changed and become someone new? That's what we're looking at. Now, a really famous example of this is someone like Tookie Williams, okay, who was the leader of the Crips. Now, he was convicted of a violent murder of a family in, I believe, the early 80s, okay? But by the time it came to the 90s and early 2000s, people were saying that the Tookie Williams that was put on death row in California was not the same Tookie Williams that was living currently at that time. They said he had completely changed, and in some ways he had. He was writing children's books, writing a lot of anti-gang literature, and was really, what people say, turning his life around. And that it would be wrong to kill Tookie Williams, to execute him, because he wasn't the same person who committed the murder, and they should give him a lighter sentence like life in prison. Now, Schwarzenegger didn't pardon him, and they did kill him. But the question still remains here. Are you a different person? If you are, okay, then what does that say about identity, who I am as an I, if I'm constantly changing and never the same? If I am the same person, despite all those changes, the main question is, what is it that has stayed the same? Because if I am the same, there must be something that's identical that I had when I was an infant, maybe when I was a little kid, that I have right now as well. What is that unity that would say be the self? Because obviously we are look different, we do change the way we're thinking. What is it that kind of unifies us throughout our entire lives? What is that thing? Okay, now, one way to approach this is the illusion theory, which you could probably figure out by now. The illusion theory means that the self is an illusion. These are philosophers who think that any idea of a self is either cannot be known, someone like David Hume is going to say, or that there just isn't a self. Something we'll see maybe like Heraclitus or the philosophers of Buddhism, okay? May say something like this. But the basic idea is that we are constantly changing. Our mind is constantly changing. Our memories are changing. There's no memory that when we recall it stays the same. Our personalities constantly change through our life, and even our physical bodies. Every 7 years, the cells reproduce and have actually new bodies that are going on. So even our body changes. We are constantly changing. Therefore, there's no unity in self, and therefore there is no self. The self is a concept, which is kind of like an empty concept. It's something we say and we talk about, but it doesn't really correspond to anything. Okay? The best way to think about this is Plato's famous ship example. Okay, so if I draw a little ship here, okay, not the best one. Here we go. Okay, and the basic idea is this: what if I had ship? We will call it the Play-Doh. Okay, we have the Play-Doh. Now I buy this 30 years ago. Okay, and it's a ship made out of wood, has a nice hull. But over the 30 years, it starts to deteriorate. But what I find out about 30 years later as it's falling apart, okay, or let's say through time it's falling apart. Also at the same time when this was made, there was another ship that was identical to it, okay, and we'll call this the Play-Doh 2. Alright, Play-Doh 2. Now, this ship was kept in a warehouse. It's the best looking ship here, okay? This ship was kept in a warehouse and was made sure to keep airtight so nothing would fail on it, would rot. Over time, as the original Play-Doh begins to rot, I go back and begin buying pieces off the Play-Doh 2 and replace again. So this hull goes, and so then I replace the hull here, take that out. All the wood planks eventually here have to be replaced, and I take these off here and replace them there. The mast, everything. Basically what happens over the 30-year period, I replace every single part of this ship with the Play-Doh 2. And to the extent that Play-Doh 2 is no longer in existence. All the pieces are now part of Play-Doh. Okay? Now my question is this. Is the ship that I have now the same ship? Is it Play-Doh, or is it a different ship? Okay? The basic idea is what the illusion theorist wants to say is obviously this is not the same ship. We may use the same name to talk about it, but what this concept or name represents is something utterly different. And therefore, we cannot say that this ship is really the same. In fact, it's more Plato, too, than Plato. This is what the illusion theorist thinks. We are constantly changing. This is who we are. Throughout our lives, we're interchanging our parts. Everything is coming and going. Nothing stays the same, and therefore, we have no self. There is no unity in the self. Nothing that would stay from the moment we're born to who we are now to make it. Okay? This idea can continue. David Hume, a very famous philosopher, is someone who says that any idea of the self is a confused idea. It's something that we may say we know, but we really can't know of the self. And he says, now if we go back to some of my other lectures, we see David Hume as an empiricist. It's best to figure out how he thinks if we compare it to someone who came before him, John Locke, because a lot of what David Hume does is attacking John Locke's idea. Now, John Locke believes that we are consciousness. Our awareness is the one thing that we've always had in our life. Okay? Now, our perceptions in the world, the things we see, and our thoughts may all come and go, but they all happen in this container called our awareness or consciousness. And within this consciousness, with all these little circles here, this perception can come and go, this thought comes and goes, this personality leaves, maybe another one comes, this one appears, on and on and on. But this consciousness which holds it all, which he also sometimes calls the mind, okay, is something that is always there. And that is the thing that identifies with who we are. Now, David Hume, an illusion theorist, counters that. He says, if we are true empiricists, what we actually observe, we never observe this thing right here, the container in which these perceptions come in. What we actually observe are just the individual perceptions. This one, this one, this one, this one, or this one. We see this one come into view, and this one, and this one, and this one. And this one disappears, and a new identity, or a new personality trait comes up maybe, or a new thing I'm looking at, or this one. And this one goes away, and this one occurs. There is never, Hume says, any observation of this consciousness in which they occur in. We just observe the particular perceptions, never anything more than that. The consciousness is assumed. And therefore, any idea that talks about the self as consciousness, or the self as something other than these perceptions, would be a confused idea. We don't really observe that. So what we observe, according to David Hume, is we are nothing but a bundle of thoughts. Okay? One of his famous quotes from the Treatise of Human Nature, or a text from there, he talks about that we're like a theater in which the actors come upon the stage and come and go, and the stage changes and everything, but nothing on the stage ever stays the same. It's constantly changing. And of course, he says, don't let us confuse the theater for the consciousness. Okay? He's just getting at the objects on it which come and go. That is what we are. We are nothing other a bundle of thoughts which have no connection, no unity. Okay? That's David Hume's position. Now, we can go back to the ancients. That's a modern philosopher. We can go back to the ancients. Okay? Heraclitus, one of my favorite Greek philosophers, claimed you cannot step into the same river twice. Okay? Step into the same river twice. There you go. All right. Now, what does he mean by that? Outside in front of my house, there's the James River. I live in front of it. Even though it's cold today, if I were to go and jump in, get out a minute later, then jump back in, and hopefully I die of hypothermia, okay? Didn't I jump into the James River twice, the same river? What does he mean? Well, obviously he means that the river never stays the same because it's constantly flowing. The banks are constantly eroding, even in the smallest ways. The river is never the same at any given moment. And what Heraclitus wants to get on is he always thought how strange it was how we could have this single idea, was try to this kind of make a unity out of this thing that was not a unity. Something that was many different parts constantly moving. And Heraclitus, we can use his example to talk about us. That is what we are. We are these different things moving. We use a concept to explain what we are. But this concept, which try to totalize this being we are, could never actually totalize it. All it could ever do was try to kind of grasp this thing that it really isn't. We are in a unity. We are constantly in motion and never the same. Okay? We can also find this idea in Buddhism if we take a look. The idea of the not self, or the anatman. Okay? The not self. And the basic idea of the not self is that basically our desires come from our ego, to wanting to be an individual in this world. But the mistake is, we are not individuals separate from the world. We are a part of the world and an inner web of connectedness with all of the things. And what happens, because this inner web of connectedness will always affect each other, and the world will constantly be changing, including who we are, this kind of attempt to hold on to an individual, which tries to strive for desires and separate myself from this world, will nevertheless always be set up to fail. Okay? It's what we call samsara. They call it human suffering. Put that word here. Samsara. Samsara comes from our desire to have desires, to be an individual, to seek this and that and separate myself. And as long as we do that, we will always suffer because things will always change. Anything I grasp onto will be like sand falling through my hands. And we will nevertheless suffer. And so the point of Buddhism is to realize we are individuals separated from things. We are actually called a not self. We are a part of an interconnected web of all other things, where difference still remains, it seems, but there is no self. And we need to get rid of the self in order for us to achieve nirvana. Okay? If you think of like later sects of Buddhism, like the Bodhisattvas, they don't even go and achieve nirvana until everyone's ready. That's sometimes a mistake, critique of early Buddhism, is that maybe it was too individualistic, where later Buddhism tried to save everybody. But that's a religious point here. But Buddhism, we see in Eastern culture, we see this idea as well. Now, are there any problems with this? Well, there's a lot of fun problems, but let's kind of take a look at one of the major ones. The major one of this would be responsibility. Okay? Is responsibility a problem? That if I'm not the same person I was yesterday, then what I did yesterday I'm not responsible for, right? Like Tookie Williams, maybe not 2005, not responsible for Tookie Williams in the late 70s. This could be a problem if it truly is we aren't the self. But as we'll see, maybe John Locke, later on when we talk about the memory theory, might have a way around this. But that's something we need to keep in mind. Do we lose responsibility? Okay? And then also, is it you can't ever pin us down and find a unified self. Another thing I want to put out. If you can't do that, is that really a problem? Maybe it's even better that we can't be kind of tied down to one concept or not. Maybe that's something that's special about being a human being, that we can't be totalized. That's something to think about as well. Okay, but we need to move on so we can save time here. Now, another famous theory that takes on this is the body theory. Okay, the body theory is obviously arguing against the illusion theory, and it basically says that as long as you have the same body, you have the same person. Okay, and they ignore the idea that the body, even though the body changes every 7 years, it's still the same body. So though our qualities have changed numerically, we are the same being, and they deal with that. Okay, they don't see that as a problem as the illusion theorists did. So same body, same person. This is great because it lends itself to common sense thinking. It is very common sense for anyone. When I walk into a class, what do I use to notify that I see this individual, this individual, this individual student? What do I use? Well, I use their bodies to figure that out, their physical appearance. When I look in the mirror, we look at our bodies and we do judge ourselves. We think of ourselves through our bodies. So we see that our body is an extremely important part about who we are. So perhaps the body is who we are. Okay? Now, that's a pretty simple idea. It's also going to fall in the sense of anyone who thinks like DNA, things like this, same DNA, same person. Tookie Williams left his DNA at the scene. If he had the same DNA in 2005, he's the one who did it. Same DNA, same person. This would fall into this as well, even though DNA even mutates throughout your life. Are there problems? Well, there's two that I want to quickly bring our attention to. One is life after death. Okay? Now, this might not be a problem because many body theorists don't believe in life after death. It is only a problem if you're a body theorist and you believe in life after death. Because what happens when you die? Well, your body disappears. It disintegrates, it disappears, and goes away. What moves on? If something else moves on that's not your body and you're a body theorist, that thing cannot be yourself because your body is who you are. So if you believe in the body theory and life after death, those are incompatible theories. You have a cognitive dissonance there. Okay? Now, even if God were to give you a new body after you died, it wouldn't be the same body, if we think about it. So that wouldn't even help. Now, if you don't believe in life after death, then you have no problems as a body theorist. But if you do, you have an incompatible theory. One other theory I like to put out is just kind of see where you draw the line, if you're truly a body theorist or something else. And this is what we have is like mind switching example, okay? As I like to call it. Alright? Now imagine this. There was a horrible car accident, and a 30-year-old Caucasian mother of a 5-year-old daughter was in a horrible accident, and her entire body was destroyed, okay? But now let's say this is in the future, and we have the ability to save people's minds. And we, even though her body's gone, in just enough time, we download her mind onto a computer, okay? Now that same day, a 20-year-old African-American woman was dying from a horrible new cancer in the future, which it basically deteriorates your mind, but leaves your body perfectly intact. What we decide to do is also in the future, we have mind transplants. We decide to transplant the mind, which is perfectly fine, of the Caucasian woman, the 30-year-old, into the body, which has no mind, of the African-American woman. Okay? We do this, and it's a success. 2 weeks later, she wakes up and looks in the mirror, and she asks herself, who am I? Who is she? Now, what do you think? Now, many of us, I think, right away would start saying, maybe she is both, I don't know, or maybe she, of course, is the mind of the person, whoever. She has thoughts of the Caucasian woman. Maybe she is. But if you're a body theorist, you have to say, no, she's the African-American woman now. You know, and think about it. Who is she to the child? If you said, here is your mother. Well, the child's going to be very confused, of course, not even think it's her mother. The child is probably a body theorist, whether she knows it or not. But it really raises the question, who is she? Okay? Many are inclined to say that actually she is whoever's mind she has. Okay? And if that's the case, you are no longer a body theory. If you're still going to stick with she's the body, then you're okay, but you see the problem you run into. She's now no longer a Caucasian woman, she's an African-American woman. Okay? Which seems strange. That's something we need to think about. So that's a possible problem. Maybe the body theory doesn't fully grasp what it means to be a human being. And we'll use the memory theory or consciousness theory here in a bit to try to explain this, the other side of it. Now, there's also one other famous approach. People say that we aren't our bodies, we aren't an illusion, but we are our soul. Okay? Our soul is what makes us who we are. You have the same soul, you have the same person. This is a very popular belief. It's in pop culture. It's supported by many religions. It's even supported by a lot of the history of philosophy. Okay? The soul is who you are. That's the one thing that doesn't change. Your body may change, your thoughts may change, but your soul does not. One very famous example is Plato's idea of the soul. And just to give a really quick kind of synopsis of Plato's idea of the soul, let's write it up here. Okay? He believed the soul was three parts. Reason, we have the will, and then we have desire. Okay? Will or the appetite. Okay? And he basically believed that we were like in the midst of the charioteer he talks about. So we're like a chariot, okay, that's going along, and there's a light horse that sits over here and represents the will to go forward, forward, and forward. And there's a dark horse that's over on the other side that represents our desires, which are everywhere, all over. So this drive and desires are all over, and if there's no one to control it, this chariot is everywhere, and we are all messed up. But there is also reason, who is the driver of the chariot, and the goal of our reason is to adjust us just right. So we are going forward, and the desires are just right so we can go on a nice straight path. This is the tripartite understanding of the soul that Plato uses with the method of charioteer to kind of help us. Reason is the main part, which dictates everything else. And of course, our soul will be in harmony when reason has perfectly harmonized all parts, okay? When we're not too much, not too little. That's the idea of Plato's soul. And of course, if you're out of whack, if you're not in harmony, that's when you do evil things and become ignorant. Okay? So just real briefly, I wanted to talk about Plato's idea. Now, so it's been around. Now, what are some problems we may run into? One advantage we'll see, though, is life after death is easily answered by this. Okay? A lot of times people think the soul came up because of life after death. Your body dies, maybe even your memories go, but what goes on? Your soul, of course, goes on, which can transcend this experience. So it answers that, but there's also some other problems, though. Some maybe just empirical problems. When you come into the room, how do I know you're the same person? I can't use your body, I can't use your mind, I have to use your soul, but the soul, of course, is unobservable. So if we were looking for the soul to be our answer, maybe it is, but the problem is we're never going to know it. There's no way to ever see the soul. Also, there's no way if we can't ever see it, how do we know the soul is with me all the time? Could the soul just leave and come back? Or what if I don't have multiple souls that are constantly changing? I mean, it seems maybe preposterous, but if we can't see it, that is a possibility. And also, there is no reason to think that the soul doesn't change. Think about Plato, okay, or Socrates. Socrates, both of them thought that if you do ignorant things and your soul is corrupt, or your body is corrupt, it will harm your soul. And Socrates talks about the people who execute him were doing more harm to the souls that could never be repaired. So the body can affect the soul and change it. The soul can change as well. So if the soul is constantly changing throughout life, then what makes the soul the same thing? So it seems the same problem that happens with everything else could happen with just as easily happen with the soul. So we run into another problem. Okay? But now we want to take a look at the memory theory, and we're going to do that next. Okay, now let's talk about the memory theory, in the problem of personal identity. Okay? So we erased some of this now to give us some room. Now, the memory theory is the last theory we're going to discuss. And the memory theory basically states this. As long as you have some memories of the past, then you are the same person in those memories. Okay? Doesn't mean you have to have all of them, okay? But as long as you remember something about your past, then it's it. Now, I remember one time in my past when I first learned to ride my bike, I was going down the hill, and I was like 5 years old, and I remember getting to the bottom of the hill and falling over. My parents kind of laughing about it and things like this. Now, let's say there's a picture of this event that happens in my house, okay? I've seen that and all those things like this, all right? So that's kind of kept it on my mind. But I remember those events, so therefore, because I remember it, okay, I am that same person. I remember at 10 years old getting a Ninja Turtle birthday cake. I remember that pretty well. Don't remember who was there, but because I remember that event, I am the same person in those events. As long as I remember those things, then I am that same person. It doesn't have to be all of them, but as long as I have some memories, I am that same person. This is also related to the idea of the consciousness theory. They're very closely related, if not sometimes the same thing. And basically, remember Locke's consciousness theory, or others as well, basically that what we are is our awareness of who we are, which would include our memories, okay? Leibniz is another philosopher who believes in this, and he had this famous called the Chinese emperor example. And basically, imagine back in Leibniz's time, so you're talking the 1600s, okay? To be the Chinese emperor would have been kind of the most fantastic and awesome thing to be. For some of us Americans, it might be winning the lottery, because you know how we are with our money, right? But basically the idea is this, is there is a man who gets an opportunity to become the emperor of China, which is his biggest dream, okay? But under one condition, he would have to lose all his memories in order to do it. If you were this man, would you do it? Of course, only in all my teaching classes the last 5 years, I only had one student who ever told me they would. They said, my life isn't that good right now, I would do it. Most everyone says no, because you wouldn't really be who you are anymore, because your memories seem to make up who you are. If I don't remember anything about me, I don't even remember why I want to be the Chinese emperor, and I wouldn't even realize this is awesome, because I'm just it. So Leibniz is trying to show us who we are our memories, our thoughts of ourselves. That's what's most important. In the end, we'll see it connects to our mind. Okay? Okay. So now that we have the basic idea down here, let's talk about the problems of this. Okay? So one problem, and as we'll see, John Locke doesn't see it as a problem so much, but other thinkers will. Okay? John Locke's idea is that our consciousness, our memories of who we are, make us who we are. But the question should quickly come upon us: what happens to those memories we don't remember, those times we don't remember about ourselves? Or in a famous example, imagine when you're drunk. Okay? So think about this. What happens if I were to, today, let's say I was teaching in front of a class, I decide to come in, do a bunch of drugs, smoke a bunch of weed, drink maybe 10 shots of tequila in front of the class, slam a bunch of beers, and just proceed to get blacked out, okay? As I black out, all right, I then get up, rip my clothes off, say curse words to everyone, stomp on everything, basically get someone to call the dean to come in here, and Dr. Brown comes in and fires me on the spot, okay? Now, next week, I come back, and I come into class and start teaching, and everyone's looking at me and we're like, yo, you were fired, man. Well, don't you remember? And I go, what are you talking about? I don't remember any of that. That wasn't me, okay? And the point we're trying to get at is if I don't remember it, and if I literally, let's say I'm going along this way, and there's a moment in time right here in which I have no consciousness of, and I'm only connected to this and this, no memory whatsoever, John Locke says, very much the case that you are not the same person, that you actually become someone different. One of my best friends, we used to talk about this when sometimes he maybe gets to a certain level, he turns to who we call Dell, and he may not remember anything, but Dell seems to literally, at this point, become a different person, and then of course he returns back to who he is before and after. But in this case, because you have no connection, and literally you would start probably a new chain of memories, as sure as they were, and even though your short-term memory is about probably the only thing working, you become someone else. It's kind of funny, you know, people always joke, is that did John Locke have a couple problems with his wife, and be like, oh, you know, like, that wasn't me, honey, I promise. Maybe, okay? But I also want to point out that this seems to be a problem, but it doesn't, as John Locke would say, it doesn't hurt our responsibility. Because here, I should have known what would happen if I let Dell or this person come out. And if I know that, then the person I should be responsible for it. Even though this was a different person, I, who let this person out, am still responsible. Just like if I have a child who breaks something in store, who's responsible? Well, their father or their mother, okay? So responsibility isn't a problem, Locke says. It just happens to be, hey, you are a different person, and Locke agrees with that. Some of us might not like that, because some of us, even though we may say he was a different person, he's still the same person. Maybe, maybe not, okay? So there's one issue that memory theorists would have to deal with. The other is what we call the old, middle, and young age problem. And so let me kind of draw me here. Here I am, and let's say I'm 1 year old, okay, right there. 1 year, all right? And then let's draw me a little bit in the future, and here I am, let's say, here I am now at, we're going to say 50 years old, okay? There I'm at 50, and then of course you get me now here, there we go, my cane, long beard all the way to the ground, because I was supposed to be a wise philosopher, and now I'm 100 years old. I look sad because I'm hurting and ailing, okay? So here I am, 1 year old, 50 years old, 100 years old, okay? Now here's the old, middle, young age problem, if we're memory theorists. Now, 50 years old, I remember me when I was, maybe we should change to 5, because some of us don't remember when we were 1. When I was 5 and playing with that ball, I remember that. And when I'm 100 years old, I remember when I'm 50 years old. I can remember this event very well. But the problem is, when I'm 100 years old, I can no longer remember who I was as a kid. Okay? So it seems what we have here is, we wrote here, the old age person equals the middle age person, and the middle age person equals the young age person. But the young age person should equal this, doesn't. Okay? So this is the same person as this, and this is the same person as that, but this person is not the same person as that. Do we see what we're saying? Here is what Thomas Reid, okay, this is actually a Thomas Reid, a contemporary of Hume, who was up here earlier, claimed as the young, old, middle-aged problem, okay? What do? Well, one famous way that's dealt with this, and this is why we look here, as long as we remember some of the memories, is they've introduced indirect memories, okay? So what are indirect memories? Indirect memories are basically this. As long as I can remember a time when I would have remembered this event, then I'm the same person. So, for example, the 100-year-old person remembered the time when he was 50, when he remembered all those things before him. Though he can't recall them now, he remembers the time when he would have, and therefore he is indirectly tied to that event there. Much like when I remember I was 10 years old and had the Ninja Turtle birthday cake with Michelangelo on it, I don't remember necessarily all my friends there, but the person who did remember all those friends there, which I do remember a time when I wouldn't know that person at 10 years old, then therefore I'm the same person who played later with my best friend, even though I don't remember that now, okay? That's how it happens. Indirect memories tie us to them. We don't directly perceive them, but we know an event which does. This also helps maybe someone, Alzheimer's patients, who maybe remember particular events about last week, but can't remember everything else, okay? They might remember what they ate, but they can't remember what their own daughter or own sister who came and visited them. But as long as they remember that one event, it ties into the rest of the events. That's how they do it. The problem is, what happens if you remember very few events and you're trying to tie it to the entirety of your life? Does that work? I don't know. That's something we should think about. Okay, but to keep going. Then we have, what about false memories? And this is the idea, have you ever created a memory? Like the one about me riding a bike. And like I said, let's say I had a picture of me when I was that age. If my family has retold the story over and over again, and I've seen this picture of me doing it, isn't it quite possible I don't really remember it, but I'm creating a story in which I'm thinking I remember it? What if I have false memories? The problem is, it's impossible to tell a genuine memory from a false memory, and people believe things all the time. One event happens, 10 different people see it, you'll have 10 different versions of that event, okay? So the thing is, do the memories I have really match up to who I am? Other senses, other people who believe in, is it possible to perceive other people's memories and kind of very strange metaphysical things like this? The basic question, though, being is, what's a genuine memory and what's a false memory? And if I'm full of false memories, do those memories make me me? Now, many memory theorists basically come out with this and say, whether those false memories or genuine memories, whether we believe in psychoanalysis and subconscious and bringing back memories, and all these different things, doesn't matter. But what matters is the memories I have, whether false or genuine, still make me who I am. Even if I don't really remember that bike ride, I still think I remember it, and this false memory still makes me me. So when it comes to making me who I am as a self, it's no problem. The problem is in determining memories from other memories. But all they're saying is, whatever the memories are, you are that person. Okay? But the other issue that keeps rising in my head when I think about it is, what happens when I remember something that didn't happen to me? Am I that person? I don't know. Okay? So we'll have to go on. This is something they have difficult talking about as well. But just a problem I want to bring up if you're a memory theorist. Now finally is this guy Bernard Williams, and he has this famous torture example, and we'll end on this because I think that's a really great way to end this whole discussion between the illusion, body, soul, and now the memory theory or consciousness theory. I mean, what Bernard Williams is trying to, point out is the body, though the memory theorist tries to push it away, the body may be very important too. Okay, not saying the mind isn't, but Bernard wants to say maybe they're both important. Okay. So take, for example, that you were given this opportunity that you were going to win $1 million. Something like the Chinese emperor, or let's make it even more. You were going to be able to have as much money as you want for all your life, under one condition, that we are going to torture you horribly for a week, and you will not have any memory of it. And let's say they'll do it in a way you don't have scarring, okay, physically. And so basically what they're going to do is torture your body horribly, okay, for a week, and then erase your memories about it. So you will never remember it again, okay? So therefore, you have no memories to remember, okay? No memories of this event, so therefore it really wouldn't be you. So the question is saying, hey, go let yourself be tortured because you're going to be blacked out to it, and that isn't really you because you have no memories of it. But what would you do? Well, many of us say, wait a minute, I don't want that to happen, and why is that? Bernard Williams thinks it's because we have preference to our body. We think of our body as part of us, and we don't want anything to happen to it. Now, Bernard is not trying to reverse us and go back to body theory. What he's trying to say is, the mind is very important. We see with Lang's example, we don't want to get rid of that, but we see with the torture example, that we need the body too. And perhaps, as hopefully we don't fall into dualism, which we seem to be doing now, okay, that maybe we are a combination of both this mind and body, memories and body. Which I'm not trying to propose a dualism, but at least propose that who we are is made up of different parts that are working together. And maybe we are falling back to more of an illusion theorist with this, because if they're working and changing each other, maybe there's not one thing you could ever point to that makes you you. But as I said earlier, maybe that's not a problem. Maybe just because we cannot objectify ourselves as a single thing, maybe that's one of the amazing things about being a self and being a human being. That maybe we are constantly evolving and changing, and there's nothing that could ever unify this thing under one concept. We are something that is incomprehensible, something untotalizable, okay? Intotalizable, right? Cannot be confined under one concept and constantly are moving. Maybe that's a great thing about being us, and maybe that was what, in reality, even though many of us try to do it, would prevent us from ever truly being objectified as, you're just this, or you're just that. We're never just this or that. We are always much more than this or that, something which this or that could never obtain, and never control and hold over us, or something far beyond it, maybe. And that's a possible idea, too. And so, I want to kind of, at the end here, all of these are great theories, but I don't want to paint the illusion theory as being one that there is no self and it's despair. Maybe there's maybe this is a great thing. Maybe it's a gift that we cannot be assumed under a single concept like my name or human being. We are always much more than that. And that's something I think may bring, though I don't want to say human beings are special, but maybe in some way we are special. Or maybe the universe is like this and the whole thing is very special in some way. Which would also point to maybe there's a problem in language here, okay? Which brings us, even though he's not here anymore, Heraclitus, all right? But anyway, that will end the lecture for now. If you have any questions, please email me. I will see you next time on my philosophical lecture shorts. Thank you.